be back with you. Last week went really well, so you know what? We're gonna keep doing it as long as we got this, right, Dan?
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. We love this kind of stuff, freewheeling, and we get to talk about whatever we want to talk about, which is fun. And today we're going to talk about a little bit about what's going on. You can't avoid it, the political violence that's happening. And we're going to do some informational stuff and some commentary. But we will be right back to do that. But don't you go anywhere. Be right back.
There we go.
And we're back, just like that. Look at that. We're back, Tom.
I know.
Um, our intro says it all. Political violence in America. Crazy stuff going on, Tom. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy. It's scary. Because a couple of things we're gonna touch on why it's scary for the
Hmm.
not just because of the obvious, but other things that can haunt other people. It's just too much, man. And people are getting killed. And once you get to that point of people losing their lives, then it's a problem. You want to march and hold a sign and scream and yell, cool, knock yourself out.
Hmm.
But when that turns to people losing their lives, we have a serious problem.
Yeah, we really do. And you know what? We tend to think that this is new. This is not new. Political violence is by no means new. In human history, it's been everywhere forever. One of the most famous early ones that you can find, if you look it up, is Julius Caesar in 44 BC. Right? He's the head of the Roman Republic. It was at the time, and he was very, very popular with the people. And a group of unelected senators, they were appointed, decided to kill him. They didn't like his popularity, and that was 60 something of them, I think, stabbed him a whole bunch of times. He died. The famous line, Et tu, Brutus, meaning you too, Brutus, who's his friend, turned on him. And the
Mm.
Roman Empire was born out of that. Then we flash forward, and there's been many since then, but we can flash forward historically to the Austrian Hungary Archduke Ferdinand, who was 1914, was assassinated by a 19-year-old Serbian student in Sarajevo. And that singular act was the resulted in World War One very directly
Right.
becoming a reality. Europe was parted in many ways, and there was all kinds of chaos. The next thing you know, you got millions of people dying. And that one act precipitated it. Now, something else might have tipped it off, but that was a very famous assassination. And just through our own history here in America, I was just doing some looking around before, as I tend to do, as you know, Tom,
Yes, you do.
because I like to read a little bit. I like to learn. We had in the past year, 2024, we had two attempts on Trump's life. One involving him getting shot in the ear, another one where a guy was laying in wait to kill him. So we're not, our presidential history is not new with this. I think 1835 was the first one that's documented. There was a plot to kill Andrew Jackson that failed. Then we can fast forward up to we have President McKinley shot and killed. We have James Garfield in 1881, president shot and killed. We had William Howard Taft. There was an attempt on his life in 1909. FDR in 1933, they tried to kill him, but they ended up shooting and killing Anton Chermak, who was the mayor of Chicago at the time. We've had Gerald Ford, two attempts on his life in 1975. Reagan shot famously in 1981. Of course, the Kennedy assassination in 1963. We had President McKinley, as I mentioned, who was shot. He actually died from a non threatening life wound because doctors didn't know what bacteria were. They were sticking their fingers
Right.
in his hole. It's crazy. RFK, senator running for president. Um, Gabby Giffords, a congresswoman from Arizona in 2011, shot so brutally. She survived that one. We've had a long history in this country of this kind of stuff happening. Steve Scalise, 2017 congressional softball game. Some wingnut decides to go out and do
Right.
some shooting and killed and didn't kill him, but shot him multiple times. We've had famous threats recently against Brett Kavanaugh of the Supreme Court. A guy was on his way to kill him, and the plot was uncovered, and he was arrested. But I mean, this is serious stuff. This is ideologically driven people who want to make change politically by trying to do it through assassination. And here we have just the other day in the state of Minnesota, right? Classic example of some guy deciding that he was going to make history and change the course of history, right?
Yeah, like you just laid out it. There's no, this is not new.
Hmm.
This is going on, but because of where we're at, social media wise, and the media, it's just more prevalent because you're hearing about it. And the one part about Minnesota, the assassination, those killings, I want to bring up because it not just only just makes people scared because you don't know where something's going to happen or who's in a building that someone wants to blow up or whatever it might be.
Hmm.
But now you have this idiot pretending to be a police officer and decked out,
Hmm.
not just having like a fake shield around his neck. This guy went all out
Hmm.
with the car, with his appearance, with his equipment, with all that. And then the mask is just creepy as hell.
Hmm.
But then you get into, and I got asked this, from people, friends, relatives, whatever. How do you know it's a cop? Now you get people thinking, is that a real cop?
Hmm.
Is who a real cop, pulling them over, knocking on the door or whatever. Now you get into people paranoid about that. And there are ways to check on that. And we'll go into that because I think that's important and something we can share with our experience with doing that. But, I think, like you just laid out, the rhetoric all over the media, political either appointees or elected officials, that crap's got to stop
Yep.
with dividing everyone into just two groups, good, bad. And it depends where you are, what's good and what's bad.
Right.
And nothing good is going to come of this, everybody. Nothing.
Right. Right.
Zero.
Hmm.
Hey, have a political view. That's what this country is great about. That's why we're great. That's why we are who we are.
Hmm.
Can you imagine having 339 million people thinking the same way?
It would never work, and it
Right.
would be robots, and it would be
And
ridiculous.
why would you want that?
Nope. Nope. That's part of the reason why our democracy, not a democracy, our constitutional republic
Right.
is what it is. Our Constitution was written the way it was. And the First Amendment, the very first one, freedom of speech and religion, assembly, it's the most important part of it. You have to be able to speak your mind
Mhm.
peacefully.
Right. And I
And
agree.
mhm,
Again, that's what everything in this country is made up of. Have a different opinion,
right.
but be able to articulate it and have a conversation with whatever the other side might be.
Hmm.
People are allowed to disagree. You can't just go around killing everyone who does agree with you. I
Right.
mean, think about it. And some of these people are thinking that way. When some officials are, I don't want to go out on a crazy limb and say they're backing it or they're agreeing with it. I don't want to say that because in my heart of hearts, I'm going to hope that's not the case. That there's a morality kind of check when you become an elected official, but it just keeps going. And the same people, it's the
Hmm.
same people over and over again who just can't shut their mouth about go out and do this and go out and do this and go out and get in the face of this one and do all this. That doesn't help.
No, it doesn't help at all. We're in a terrible place as a country when it comes to the discourse. We don't have civil discourse anymore. We have people who alienate family members because they disagree with them politically. We have television programs where people who are guests can't finish a sentence without being jumped on with anger and vitriol by somebody who disagrees with them. We have whole media outlets dedicated to one side or the other who go to great lengths to do everything they can do to rile people up for their side and against the other side, to demonize the other person, as opposed to saying, I respectfully disagree with you. Now, you can go back 20, 30, 40 years on television and watch a political interview show, let's say a Sunday morning show, a news show, Meet the Press. It's civil. They speak
Right.
civilly with one another. That's gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
Gone. And
And
that's why that's what fires this up because everyone understands something. Okay. The thoughts that Minnesota assassin had, the absolute, sorry everybody, animal that assassinated the Jewish couple in front of the museum in
mhm,
DC a few weeks ago,
right.
you know, they already have somewhat of a thought in their head. This all of a sudden didn't wake up one morning and go, I'm going to do this. this is going on in their head, and the fire that's in there and the violence is percolating in their head.
Mm-hmm.
When you have people in our government pushing it or saying or these bad guys having the thought that these people are going to be in my corner if I go do this,
Mm-hmm.
what does that do? It springboards them into action.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going on here. There's you have light-minded people that are being pushed over that edge because they think they're right,
Mm-hmm.
because they have people backing them up or saying similar things that's being said in their head.
Yeah, these people. You know, the world is filled with a lot of good people and some people who are mentally ill and not
Right?
treated. And I hate to say that, but it's true. We see it in police work. There's a lot of people out there who are easily impressionable and can be moved to violent actions, can get their emotions stirred up easily, and who wait for a moment. Now, this guy, I'm not going to say his name,
No.
the wingnut that killed the congresswoman, the
Hmm.
state representative and her husband, and shot the state senator and his wife. And may they all recover, and the ones that passed, may they rest in peace, and their family find peace somehow. I don't care where I fall politically versus you. You're a human being. This should never happen to you because you're in politics. Never. This
No.
is America. This is not a banana republic. We have to stop this stuff. But this guy, you talk about intent. You talk about how much time he spent planning this and plotting
Yeah.
this. This is a rage burning inside him. It's also probably in many other ways. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in his interviews. It's probably narcissistic desire to be given attention, wanting to go down as famous. If for this, then nothing. If nothing else, then this. Um, Holes in his life. I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory. Whatever it was, but this is not somebody reacting to a comment made, sitting among friends, getting pissed off and stand up and want to go to blows. This is long simmering. And that
Right.
is fueled by ongoing rhetoric. It's fueled by a lot of things. I blame him individually, but I also think there's enough blame to go around. As a society, we need to tone it down. Absolutely.
Oh, it's too, the problem is here in everything comes back to this, and you're going to get it when I say it. It's like about clicks. How many subscribers can I get today if I get up on behind a podium and just say A, B, and C?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be on every news channel. I'm going to be on the 30-second hit on every channel. And that's like what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
But they're losing the point that that is making an impact on these people who are thinking along those lines. It's not about you. You want to get reelected, or you want to move up from congresswoman to senator or whatever that might be, or the next step after that. So I'm going to go and do this and run my mouth and yell and scream, and someone, it's just about me now. No, that's not it. That's irresponsible.
Right.
Because believe it or not, the biggest people who with the biggest mouths in Congress or the Senate have the most followers, which is
Mm-hmm.
scary. But what are they doing? Listening to their words. Words matter.
Mm-hmm.
Words matter in this entire political world. On either side, doesn't matter. I don't care. No one's getting, put into one certain box tonight. There's enough to go around. You just said it before we came on. And you have to be responsible for your words.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You got to be responsible for them. You got to recognize the impact that they have. You know, in recent years, there have been members of Congress who've made statements. We need to go after them. We need to be more aggressive. We need to be more tough. We need to eliminate them. We need to knock all these kind of words that can go a lot of different ways. And if it's intentional, shame on them.
No.
If it's intentional, shame on them. There's such a thing as inciting to riot or inciting to violence, which is when you use rhetoric and words in front of a group that causes them to go do acts of violence or acts of mischief. You own what happened. You're a part of it. You helped make it happen. And I think we need to, and I don't think it'll happen. I remember distinctly in 1981 when Reagan was shot. When he came back, he made an appearance before and a speech before a joint session of Congress, and he had a standing ovation. Both houses stood for him. Both houses realized he's the leader of the free world. He's our president, whether I voted for him or not, or I support his policies or not. And he deserves a standing ovation for fighting through it, coming back to serve his country. Period. Donald Trump is shot in the ear. He would have been dead in a most gruesome way had he not turned his head.
Hmm.
And still,
Right.
still, the media jumped all over him. People on the political opponents jumped all over him. They didn't give him any grace. I mean, it's this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Hmm.
This is beyond politics now. Now it's becoming a mental health issue. There's members of Congress who are really in bad shape on both sides, and they just you gotta tone it down, guys, girls. You gotta tone it down.
They do, and it's both sides. It
Hmm.
just doesn't stop, and there's points in time. Listen, we watch the news because we're part, not part of it, but some of the things going on in the news we talk about a lot,
Hmm.
either on this show or posts that we do, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And there's times that I won't put the news on for like 3 or 4 days because
Hmm.
you just can't. You just can't listen anymore because it's too much.
Right.
And like I said, people start getting killed. We have a problem, and political violence is also because of rhetoric being geared towards law enforcement.
Hmm.
And men and women in blue who are out there protecting us. When you have these silly, staged, outraged, let me get arrested crap
Yeah.
going on, and then they get on the news that night, and who do they badmouth? The cops.
Yeah.
They arrested me. They put me on the ground. They put me in handcuffs. Well, yeah, that's, listen, arrests aren't pretty. Sorry,
Mhm.
they're not.
Right.
They're not.
Especially if you don't comply.
Right.
If you
They're
don't
not
put your hand,
pretty.
yeah, you get stupid. You're waving your hands. You're moving towards me. You're gonna get on the ground. Period.
Right. But think about what, there were just two recently. All right. Look what both of them did. They were set up to give this political, look what I'm helping this out, or barge into a press conference and I'm going to get my point across. Well, A, you didn't. And B, then you turn around and bash the cops.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what was your plan going in?
Yeah.
Like, have a game plan, have an end
Political.
game.
These are stunts, Tom. These are
Well,
political
right. That,
stunts.
that was the word I was actually looking for. Thank you.
That's all right. But what happens is these stunts incite people to do their own stunts, right? I
Mhm.
mean, we both know how easily persuaded a simple mind is that's teetering on the edge of doing something stupid anyway, but now gets a focus, now gets an idea, now gets a role model. Hey, he or she's a member of Congress or Senate. They did this. I'll make the papers. I'll be on CNN.
Sure.
I'll be in TV. I'll be this. I'll be that. I'll be remembered.
Mhm.
And they do it. And you're right. You talked about violence against police officers as political violence. Absolutely. Absolutely. There have been assassinations and significant violence against police all across this country for many, many, many years in the name of a political um, agenda or
Mhm.
a specific sort of cause. And police officers are the walking embodiment of the representatives of the government, of authority. And you want to thumb your nose at authority, you want to tell them that, if you want to shatter a community, you attack the cops because they're the protectors.
Right. That's easy. I mean, they're easy targets. That's the
Hmm.
problem.
Yeah, because we got to be
And
out there. Yeah.
right. They're easy targets. They can't go away. And there's gonna be a subject that we're gonna talk about in the next couple of weeks about uniforms and all that stuff. That's gonna be a really interesting conversation and talk that we have, or show that we have. But and they have no recourse. None. They're getting
Hmm.
doxxed. Their families are getting threatened. Their kids are getting threatened.
Right.
Either on social media, or they're banging on people's doors. For what?
Hmm.
All they're doing is their job.
Hmm.
That's it. No group of cops sit in a locker room, go, hey, let's do this tonight. Let's go. It's not.
Mm-mm.
Okay. It's not. And people who tell you that are dead wrong, and they're lying to you.
Nope. I haven't seen it. It's not my experience. You go to work, the last thing in the world you want is insanity. I don't care what you do for a living. If you're a normal person, you don't want insanity. And the job of police officers in this country is not insanity. It's to make sense out of chaos. It's to calm things down. It's to bring order where there is none. It's to be the person standing between the violence and the person who's an innocent victim, not the person making it worse. Are
Mhm.
there occasional people who have done it? Absolutely. Heck, there's surgeons who've intentionally killed people. Let's be honest. Human beings is going to be a small subset or percentage of any group that does deviant, stupid, crazy, insane things. But for the most part, the overwhelming majority go to work every day looking to just have smooth interactions with people, help people out,
Hmm.
not give them a hard time, not break your shoes, not make your life more difficult. But if you're a troublemaker, we're there to deal with you. If you're a criminal, we're there to deal with you. So the violence against cops, I mean, we saw 5 cops in Dallas assassinated, and that's what that was a few years ago
Right.
at a parade. It was a political assassination. It's
Right.
disgusting. In New York City, we have a long history of political assassinations of police officers. I mean, I remember when I came on the job in '84, it wasn't that far behind when that kind of stuff was happening. And some of my training officers worked through it, and they know what it was like to have guys they work with, guys set up phony calls, to have them
Right.
set up to make a political statement. It's happened all across the country.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because of inflammatory rhetoric and people getting tied up in it.
Right. And you know how, and you know what? It's not to make it simple, but in my mind, it's simple. There's an easy solution to this: accountability.
Hmm.
Accountability. Like, one part of it is the criminal justice system doing what's right to these individuals who are locked up.
Hmm.
You put them away forever. That's it.
Hmm.
If not, if the states, have a death penalty, so be it.
Yeah.
These are cold-blooded assassinations, all
Hmm.
right, that need to be dealt with at the highest level of any prosecution you can think of. And if people see that, all right, maybe they're not playing. Maybe think twice about doing something stupid. Even the same people, throwing cinder blocks off of overpasses onto police cars, they need to go away for a really long time.
Oh yeah.
And that's the only way messages get sent.
Hmm.
That's it. That's the only way.
You know.
And if it doesn't happen, Dan, it's just
Mhm.
going to continue because these criminals understand what they can get away with.
It's only two responses. One punishes and one condones. If you do nothing, it condones it and it eggs it
Mhm.
on. If you punish, it helps stop it. I'm looking at the ICE situation. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents across this country are out enforcing the existing laws of our nation, putting people onto buses to get them out of the country if they're here committing criminal acts. The first one was coming across the border illegally. And then from then on, that's what they're doing. They're trying to make sure that our nation can survive as a sovereign nation. And they're enforcing the law they're paid and sworn to enforce, and that our members of Congress voted into law. This is existing law. This is not them going off on their own.
Mhm.
And we have political violence targeting them, political violence targeting cities themselves to break them up. And it's all being funded by radical people who are egging these people on. So any violence that takes place, anytime somebody jumps in the way of an ICE agent who's attempting to do their job, you're committing a federal felony. And they should be locked up, charged, and prosecuted federally for a felony. Let
Mhm.
them do time. None of this disorderly conduct summons dismissed 2 weeks later by the DA. Nonsense. Nonsense. Lock them up. You
Right.
go away, period. It's a crime. You committed it. Here it is. You did it. Bang, bye. You want to stop it? You're right. That's how you stop it.
Right. And follow the money.
Oh, yeah.
How
They're
many
doing that
cases
now.
of how many cases have we done in narcotics, homicide, whatever it might have been, terrorism that we did forever? Okay. Follow the money.
The money.
And all those people who are funding these groups need to get locked up as well.
Every single one of them. That's right.
And they're, what was the taking their funds and taking their property and
Seizing the assets and
asset forfeiture.
asset forfeiture. Yeah.
If that contribute to it, no, it's ours now.
Yeah.
And you start building that up and getting the reputation of, hey, if you fund any of these people, you're going to jail, and we're taking your house and we're taking your cars, and you're not getting your money.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I enjoy doing federal cases because
Yeah, that's what I mean. Right.
look on some of their faces like, you're taking my what? Yeah, the
Right.
government's taking everything.
That's
Yeah,
right. You don't own that car anymore. It's gone.
You don't own that house anymore. That boat
Right.
you had, yeah, it's gone. Proceeds of a crime. Goodbye.
Yep.
Good luck. living it.
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
what needs to be done. You need, it's time. It's time to just step everyone's game up,
Hmm.
into acting like, sort of like, to turn the clock back a little bit, like we acted in the early 90s
Hmm.
when the gates got opened and it was, hey, clean up New York City after 3,000 homicides every year. and we were giving, the ability to do it and the backing to do it and the resources to do it,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we did.
Yep.
Everyone got locked. You got locked up for committing crimes. Your property was ours. And what did that do? That resonated throughout the entire city of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, damn,
Yep.
I'm not getting them on my side, on my
Right.
ass, whatever. We're not going to do it. And that's how you win this war.
Mm-hmm. And there's two ways to do the no bail thing too. No bail means you walk out, but there's also no bail meaning held. You're remanded. You're not being offered bail.
Right.
And that can go both ways. It's up to the DA's office to decide whether they want to do that. Sadly, we have a lot of weak DAs in this country, but Tom and I right now, you may think we're getting political. We're really not. We're talking about common sense. We're talking about enforcing existing laws for the benefit of the members of our community, this nation of ours, who just want to raise their families and go to work and do the right thing and want to
Right.
be left alone by criminals and don't want the government messing with their lives any more than they have to. That's all it is.
That's
It
it.
comes down to that.
Right. And keeping people safe and their
Mhm.
property safe and their stores safe so they don't get looted because of whatever. That's what this is all about. Listen, yeah. And we say it all the time. If two of us can sit on a show like this and know what to do, why can't the people we elect,
Right.
who
Right.
have the ability to go, okay, this is our new law, this is our new procedure, whatever it might be, why can't they just do it?
It's not brain surgery. It really
No,
isn't. And
it's not.
it's basic stuff. You know, with good intention, the members of state and federal governments, represent houses of representative and senate, voted in laws that now make up for the federal U.S. code and the state penal laws and the criminal procedure laws of every state. If you actually enforce them and you actually give people sentences that are they're eligible for based upon that conviction and not just plead everything out, what a difference we'd have. I remember in Jack Maple, one of his famous sayings, he was the architect of CompStat and smarter policing in New York City under Bill Bratton. He said, "It's not crime; it's criminals.
Right.
Stop chasing 300,000 robberies. Go after the 5,000 people that are doing them.
Right.
And when you go after the people that are responsible for this stuff, you watch things change.
Hmm.
And our goal at the end of the day is twofold. Well, we have a lot of goals, but one is to be a voice for the men and women of law enforcement, to let people know what they go through, and for a voice for victims, and also to see positive change with regards to our communities in this country. We want to see people live safe. We want to see kids out in the street again, not worrying about too much stuff. We want to see responsible adults taking ownership of their actions, being accountable for them, not blaming everybody else, and not getting just what did you do, own it, take care of it, move on. It's the way we were raised, and it's shocking to watch a society go the other way, isn't it?
It is, and again, it's scary, and I just want to kind of go back a little bit and something we touched on that we said we were gonna touch on because of a worry that some people have voiced to me, and we've done shows like this, and we've brought this topic up before about knowing if someone's a cop and knowing if someone's a police officer.
Hmm.
And here's the deal, and you please, as soon as give your opinion as well, Dan. If someone comes to your door, okay, and they're dressed like a police officer and so on and so forth, and you're uncomfortable, call 911.
That's right.
That's it. Lock the door, keep the door locked, call 911 and say, "Hey, there's a police officer at my front door. I don't know if he's real. Can you help me?"
Yep.
That's it.
Because 911 dispatch knows where cops are.
Right.
They go over the air and say, "I'm here, I'm there." And they'll
Right.
be able to tell you that's a legitimate officer from your local department. Please open the door, period.
Right. That's it.
Or, I don't know who it is, but I'm sending a car, at which point you're safe still.
Mhm.
But you haven't you haven't gotten yourself in a bad position. You haven't gotten yourself in legal trouble with the officer. All you're doing is making sure, looking out for your own safety. I, as an officer, would welcome that. I
Mhm.
have no problem. You know what? Call 911. I'll wait here. I want you to feel safe. My
Mhm.
job is not to make you nervous. My job is to make you feel safe. So at the end of the day, that's a smart move. Even if
Hey,
you're pulled over by a car and it's like an unmarked, I don't know who it is, jump on 911.
absolutely.
Because cops, when they pull cars over, get on the radio and say, got a car stop at 153 in Amsterdam, whatever, black, Monte Carlo, whatever it is. They have to say that. So, because they do that for their own safety, let the
Right.
other officers know where they are. So use that phone, 911, be safe, but always be polite and respectful, but watch out for yourself. That's okay.
Right. I mean, Dan, we we were both working in the city when there were robbery crews that were doing pushing robberies.
Oh yeah.
And during that time, we were both in anti-crime. Plain clothes, nothing but a shield around your neck.
Mm-hmm.
How many times someone didn't open a door when we had to try to get into a department or whatever it might have been because we just had our street clothes on and a shield?
Mm-hmm.
Happened all the time. All the time.
Yep.
That people, and then you get a call on the radio, hey, they just called 911, whatever it might be, and you'd hold your radio up to the door so they could hear Central saying
Mm-hmm.
they're from whatever precinct, and then you'd let them in. But, you know, the car stops, you know, that I get. That is listen, you know, both me and you have been on the job or were on the job forever. I don't like getting pulled over.
Mm-mm.
It's not fun. It's not, you know, you don't want to be that, much less if you're, you know, a young woman on a dark street and the lights go on and, you know, you're about to get pulled over.
Right.
And the one thing I would tell everybody, listen, there's a big difference between lights on a radio car and a light that someone buys on Amazon.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And, you know, can someone deck that car out? Yes, they can, like this lunatic did in Minnesota. Yes, the extreme police impersonators can do that. But a lot of times they'll go and buy a, you know, $25 light that they shove on their dashboard. If you're uncomfortable with that, keep driving. Don't stop. Keep driving and get on the phone. I'm being followed by a car that they have a light, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's a police officer. This is where I am.
Don't speed away. Don't
No.
become a chase. Just drive.
Just
within
keep
the
driving.
confines of the law. And if you know where the local police station is, drive right there.
Right.
Drive right to the police station or to a firehouse, to a well-lit area. And if you feel safe, pull over there. But make that 911 call, confirm, and any officer who's worth his shoes is going to be understanding of that, especially in this environment, especially if you're a particularly vulnerable person.
Right.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I think that was important. You know, that was one of the things when we knew we were going to talk about tonight. That was one of the things I wanted to hit on because we get asked all the time. You know, we've both done other podcasts as guests, and that question comes up a lot. You know, what if this happened? And, you know, you have to go into it. So we thought it was important to hit that tonight. But I think we both come to the conclusion, Dan, that just this absolute crap has to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with people's mouths and what comes out of them.
Yeah, yeah, it really does because it's inciting. And we need as a society to reject that. If it means you got to reach out to your Congress people and send them an email and say, hey, knock it off, get respectful. But respect has to be, it's a two-way street. So both sides have to give each other respect. And it's sad to watch happen because it's a deterioration of what should be a much more dignified role in society.
Right.
Elected officials who have a voice and a platform and who have influence, using it. And at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to political power. Those who are in power want to keep it. Those who aren't want to get it back, and they're willing to do almost anything.
No doubt. And the ones who are striving for it see the power someone else has and wants it.
That's right.
You know, and listen, everybody, understand something. This is on every aspect of the political world. Okay. There's times that I'll watch the news and someone maybe I like or whoever will say something stupid and you just go, oh no.
Yeah,
Like, what are you doing? Like, why did you say that?
Yeah.
I mean, it happens all the time, whether you like the person or not, but it's not the point. It's everyone's doing it, and everyone needs to get in a room and either you're gonna light candles and sing Kumbaya, or just everyone just go, you know what? Let's all just be an adult for a week. Let's try it for a week.
Yeah.
You know, and see if we can get past a week without, you know, someone jumping on TV, yelling and screaming about something and being okay when people get hurt or intimidated or pushed around or bullied or whatever it might be because of a thought you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's
too much.
Gotten too crazy. We want to see it stop. We condemn it on both sides of the aisle. There's no room for it in this country. United States of America, I don't want to see it become that third world country where dictators are constantly being eliminated and taken out left and right by political adversaries, and it's just part of the game. That shouldn't be the way here. We got to stop it.
Yeah, we're better than that. That's the point. We're better than that. You know, we're the United States of America for a reason, and we have to act like it because here's why. The rest of the world looks at what we do.
Yeah.
And if we're out of control and elected officials are getting killed because of the way they vote, we're in a deep, dark hole that is going to be really hard to get out of.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. Very, very well said. So we'll watch what goes on. And did we mention a certain
Nope.
trial that
Go
ended
ahead.
today? All right. Well, you may or might know it. By the time you're watching this, you may not know it. But Karen Reed's trial up in Massachusetts, she was acquitted. Acquitted, found not guilty of the murder charge against her former boyfriend, John O'Keefe, from a few years ago. Second trial, and they let her go. Tom, thoughts on that? What the jury? What were
You
they
know what?
given?
We said it last week, Dan. This was a complete toss up
That's right.
of what could have happened.
Mhm.
We said it last week. That was our first show. What could have happened? Don't. I'm not into reading juries because things like this happen.
Yeah.
People like,
Yeah.
oh no, this one looked this way and that one. No, no. When you get in that room and you're all together, totally different. But am I shocked? No,
Mm-mm.
not at all. I think there were a lot of mistakes that were made that went towards the defense in testimony and evidence collection and a whole ton of other stuff.
And credibility.
Right.
Is one thing you learn as a young cop when you're testifying. Your credibility is everything. You have to be believable, and you can't stammer as though you don't know what you're talking about. You have to get up there and come across as believable. And
Hmm.
if you make a mistake, you have to own it and you have to explain it. And juries can be forgiving, but juries will not believe somebody who comes across as uncredible or who seems to have a bias against the defendant. It seems weighed too heavily against that person, then, and they can get sympathy. So there's
Yeah.
a lot at play here, and I think if you poll the jurors, you'll find a whole bunch of different reasons why. But at the end of the day, what I saw was more than enough doubt raised by the defense based upon the officers involved in this case, the evidence collection, the testimony, the comments made by them to each
The
other, all
text
kinds of things.
messages.
Yeah, it didn't help them. It
No.
didn't help them.
And we've said it, how many times have we said it on other shows, on our show?
Hmm.
Trials begin at the crime scene.
That's right.
They don't start when the courtroom doors open or the first witness. That trial begins the second you show up to a crime scene.
That's
And
right.
if you screw up then, a year from then, it's still going to be a screw up.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, I wasn't shocked. I'm kind of glad it's over. you know,
Yeah.
uh,
So
but we'll see what she does next. I mean, it's going to be interesting the follow up interviews she's going to give, and there's going to be a lot. Like you just mentioned, jurors, maybe making statements and seeing where what happened and why and all that are going to be interesting.
so a lot of people will ask at this time, and I'll just throw it out there. Well, if she was acquitted, is the case still open? Are they still looking for the real person responsible? The answer to that is I don't know because I'm not in that department, in that squad room, whether or not
Right.
they want to take that position. But when they brought the charges against her, they threw everything in that this is
Hmm.
the person who did it. And there was evidence to corroborate that thought. I mean, they didn't arrest her on nothing.
Right.
So you won't see somebody else arrested and brought in for this.
Right. The only
I
thing
don't think
they'll
so.
right. The only thing that is a possibility is the FBI getting involved with the civil rights part.
Hmm.
If there was unethical things happening, and that could be, hold on tight. That might come true.
Hmm.
But that would be the only logical next step. But for now, Karen Reed is done. It's
Yep.
over. We don't have to talk about it anymore.
Yeah. Although you will see and probably hear a lot from her because she likes the
Oh,
camera.
it's going to be interesting. Yep.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But Dan, another great conversation. I
Yep.
think, some topics that are needed, and good time.
Yeah.
Good time tonight.
Love this kind of stuff. Love this time with the audience. And we can't thank you enough for tuning in, being a part of this show. We are no show without you. And we just love doing this. We enjoy the platform. We're blessed to have it, and we want to use it the right way. Hey, thegoldshieldshow.com, thegoldshieldshow.com. Any comments, thoughts, suggestions for shows or ideas? We're open. We want to hear. We want to learn. We want to get better for you. So please don't be shy. Let us know what you're thinking.
Absolutely. Well said, my man. Everyone out there, listen, thanks again for joining us on our second edition of Law and Disorder. We're already talking about our next show, so that'll be good. Everyone out there, please stay safe. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of the week and the upcoming weekend, a couple of days. All right, everyone be good. Talk to you soon.
Take care now.